Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and this is a breakdown of Marvel's Agatha All Along, episodes 1 and 2, Seekest Thou The Road, and Circle Sewn with Fate Unlock Thy Hidden Gate. We are so back, witching spells, stitching theories, and itching for Mephisto here on New Rockstars. It's like this show was designed for us, and it's like, I was made for this. And it will be our honor to guide you down this witches, plural possessive, road for Easter eggs, secret layers of meaning, and every detail you might have missed. Thanks to Fabletics for sponsoring this video, more on them in a moment. And I want to hear all of your thoughts, your theories, your questions every Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific time on the Breakroom channel, where Jessica and Brandon and Evan and Zach and John and I will be streaming live in a weekly Agatha Roundtable Q&A with all of you. So subscribe to the Breakroom channel. Let's keep this conversation going over there. Okay, for the first time, Marvel Studios unveils its Marvel Television bumper. It uses the same initial rapidly flipping comic book images that Marvel Studios title bumper opens with. For example, we once again see this armored fist. This is the fist of the Iron Man armor model 22, the Thor Buster armor from 2003's Invincible Iron Man number 64. This and several other familiar images are now filtered through an MTV-inspired 90s television graphics package that flickers with interference and glows the logo through these RGB cells, and then sharpens into a flat logo with kind of a Netflix-worthy sound effect. Starting in 2024, Marvel has aimed to brand titles like Agatha All Along and Daredevil Born Again as Marvel Television to distinguish these stories from the Marvel Studios films. We open on the road, not the road, but a rainy New Jersey road being driven on by Agatha Harkness, or Detective Agnes O'Connor, as she thinks she's named. She hums This is the Ballad of the Witch's Road, a song that will come back throughout the series, and the fact that Agnes is humming it here tells us that it's really a song that's already in her heart. Every time she journeys down any road, there's really only one road that she wants to be on. Later, Agnes even likens this particular road with the Witch's Road.
I was on a road this morning. It led to something pretty awful.
So remember, WandaVision ended with Wanda taking Agatha's powers and leaving Agatha in her own mental spell to think she's still living in a TV-themed world, despite the sitcom hex over the town of Westview being lifted. So this series is set 3 years after that. So in the MCU timeline, it would make this 2026. The character of Agatha Harkness really began as the governess of the family of the Fantastic Four of Reed Richards and Sue Storm. She came back in the 80s West Coast Adventure storyline as kind of a nanny figure to Wanda and Vision's kids, revealed to be a witch who's really serving Mephisto. She's never really had her own solo run, so this show has quite a bit of bandwidth to just make the character of Agatha Harkness whatever they want it to be. It's truly a classic TV spinoff in which Kathryn Hahn is just making the character her own. Now, back in WandaVision, Wanda's spell seems specific to lighthearted sitcoms, but now Agatha is in a crime drama reality that's based on the HBO series Mare of Easttown. Kathryn Hahn is dressed like an emulating Kate Winslet's working class Pennsylvania detective, and these opening shots are recreating the opening minutes of the second episode of Mare of Easttown, when Mare is driving up to the crime scene in which a young woman is found dead in a creek in the woods. Wanda Maximoff's defeat in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness seems to have altered the spell to be focused just more on death, thus the switch from sitcom to crime drama. Now, of course, Agatha is not in reality driving here, but as we see in episode 2, she's really just sitting in her living room, pressing her feet on boxes of cereal. And I love that the Agatha writers went to the lengths to justify that. David Payton returns from WandaVision as Westview resident John Collins, or Herb, the neighbor as he was known in the Hex. He says,
"Hey, neighbor."
Of course, he greets Agnes as neighbor, and he's behind a line of yellow police tape, which in reality is probably John saying, "Hey, neighbor," from behind his row of yellow flowers. Agnes references her disciplinary action of punching a suspect.
Oh, now a convicted felon. Can't be right and wrong at the same time.
I assume Agatha's suspension might have come from her brawl with Wanda Maximoff, who the people of Westview actually now see as a villain. Herb says,
"Jane Doe. Found her down here by the water."
John Collins makes a subtle inflection choice here in the way he says water. Mare of Easttown was parodied by Saturday Night Live in this hilarious murder dirter sketch.
I didn't murder no one's daughter. I got no idea how she ended up in the water. What water?
But locals to the area will note that Werter is closer to how they say it in Baltimore. In the Philly suburbs, it's Wooter. So Peyton really did the research and he nails it here. Herb says,
"She was crushed.
By what?
Something big and heavy."
Yes, referring to Wanda's end in Multiverse of Madness when the Darkhold temple atop Mount Wundagore collapsed on top of her. The walls of that temple actually contained Chthon's original etchings of the Darkhold's text. So in a way, it was kind of the original Darkhold that closed on her. People who have a favorite pair of pants get it. They're your second skin. They've got to be exactly right. And now I've got a new favorite pair thanks to the Dawn Pant from Fabletics. Fabletics makes clothes that are lightweight, breathable, and moisture wicking. They've got sizes from XS to 4X with bold colors and neutral shades that go with everything. Even among the Fabletics items in my wardrobe, the Dawn Pant stands out. They're lightweight enough for SoCal, completely water resistant for when I travel somewhere with rain, plus comfortable enough that I don't have to like change into a different pair of pants at the end of the day just to relax. They're great. The best way to get a pair of your own is to join the Fabletics VIP program. That'll give you 80% off your first order, plus up to 50% off all day, every day on all products. Plus, every month you can use your member credit to redeem a 2-piece set or any product up to $100. It's very flexible. You can choose to shop or skip each month between the 1st to the 5th. And that's in addition to access to VIP-only sales, personalized outfit recommendations, and access to the Fabletics Fit app and monthly drops. To get some Fabletics clothing of your own and sign up for their VIP program, just click on the link in the description below. But then they tease us.
She is dead, though, isn't she, Herb?
Oh, she's really most sincerely dead.
Never know.
They're referring to the fact that when the temple collapsed, we did see a mysterious red glow in the rubble that could have been Wanda's death, or it could have been her teleportation, or just her transition into some other realm or some other form. Over the years, Kevin Feige and Elizabeth Olsen have indicated that Wanda could come back in some form in the future, and indeed, in the past week, people have discovered a copyright notice of a Scarlet Witch movie that might be coming in 2026.
Be dead, right?
I think so.
You don't know, or you won't say?
I assume as much.
The rocks landed on her.
Yeah, and there is a red light.
And there was a red light.
Of explosive energy.
Stuff, yeah.
But the wording of really most sincerely dead actually comes from The Wizard of Oz. And the corner of Munchkinland pronounces the Wicked Witch of the East this way.
She's really most sincerely dead.
So Agnes sees this Jane Doe corpse and reaches for her chest as if wanting to touch the brooch that would normally be there. Like later, notice when she's changing all of her costumes, she always starts with a reach to this region. The corpse is barefoot and has black fingers. It's a common trope of corpses in crime dramas to focus on the deceased's discolored fingers and toes, but in this case, the black fingers is a side effect of someone who uses the Darkhold. Agnes finds her brooch in a puddle, and her reflection is placed perfectly over it so that it aligns the brooch exactly where it would be pinned to her chest. They roll the body, but Agnes's position and the head being hooded obscures the appearance of this person. This opening scene and much of this episode clearly wants us to think that this body belongs to Wanda Maximoff. They identify it as female, it was crushed by something heavy, the scarlet hair from under the sheet, but then we must ask, why are her feet bare? Did Wanda go to the Witch's Road? I don't want to deny that this body being Wanda is possible. I think Wanda is still alive somewhere out there and will return in some form. I'm just not positive if it will be on this series. So here is an alternate theory. This episode also likens the corpse with the Book of the Darkhold itself. Its toe tag is a Westview library card, which would make this body a book, and the previous possessors of it being Wanda and Agatha. So I think the corpse is just the Darkhold taking the form of a human body in this TV reality. Also, I think the fact that they're making this book into a dead body could be pointing to the possibility that it may end up being Joe Locke's character, who might be Agatha's son, Nicholas Scratch. And right now, she's just seeing the corpse as female because the Darkhold text has really a feminine quality to it, as the text that foretells the Scarlet Witch. Later, Agnes even says,
She dead?
Why do you assume it's a woman?
I don't know. Sounds more titillating.
And we should acknowledge that Wanda's hair was never as red as the hair under the morgue sheet in that scene. Her hair in Multiverse of Madness was more of like a dirty blonde or a strawberry blonde. So it may just be that the Scarlet Witch in this case is just a scarlet herring. As we proceed, I'll point to some other clues that corpse equals Darkhold equals Nikki Scratch equals teen equals Agatha's sacrificed son. Since Mayor of Easttown doesn't have an opening title sequence, they used HBO's True Detective with the Lopez's recording of the Ballad of the Witch's Road, the crime version, with the same male Western vocals as the True Detective theme song from season 1. In this montage, we see the shot of the main road that leads into Westview past the welcome sign. This is where Monica Rambeau and Jimmy Woo stood in WandaVision episode 4. We see yellow police tape stretched across the forest floor, and we keep returning to this police tape as we see that visually it forms the Witch's Road. Its yellow color actually makes it look like the yellow brick road from The Wizard of Oz, which this series is definitely pulling from in several different ways. Instead of the actors' actual names, we get their character names, as Agatha has really just cast it within this spell. We see Agnes O'Connor, then Norm Norm Gentilucci, Dottie Jones, Herb Feltman, Dennis Weber, and Mrs. Hart, which is hilarious because Agatha doesn't even know Mrs. Hart's first name. We see a scoreboard for a Westview versus Eastview football game. One of these teams' mascots are the Blue Devils, which would make an interesting contrast with the Scarlet Witch, right? They're tied at 14 with 2:26 to go in the fourth quarter, but Eastview's in possession at 1st and 10, which would put them in a decent position to win. And True Detective's title sequence is known for being surreal and spooky, and here there is a quick insert of either a toppled statue or a severely dehydrated corpse of a woman, very creepy. And as the police tape stretches into the midst of the forest, we see, based on the Danish series WandaVision, which is hilarious because many compare True Detective to the Danish crime series Forbrydelsen, aka The Killing. And the final title card reads Agnes of Westview, which is clearly a take on Mayor of Easttown. So Agnes goes into the Westview library and meets with librarian Dottie Jones, real name Sarah Proctor, which we should note was the name of a real-life 16-year-old citizen of the Salem colony who was accused of witchcraft in 1692. Dottie, remember, was the one who in WandaVision episode 2 said this:
"The devil's in the details, Bev."
That's not the only place he is.
And broke my brain. The library card is for a book titled Dialogue and Rhetoric, Known History of Learning and Debate, which of course Agnes later deduces the first letters to spell out Darkhold. The author is Andrew Ugo. Ugo is an Italian boy's name meaning heart or mind or spirit. I was playing around with this. Andrew Ugo is also an anagram for W Dangerous without the S. We almost got there. Now there are the following dates on the library card, just with the names erased: January 18th, October 22nd, February 4th, February 16th, August 28th, June 2nd, December 28th, January 21st, and October 13th. We later see W Maximoff on October 13th and A Harkness on January 21st. But by this logic, in total, there have been 9 total people who have possessed the Darkhold over the years, or at least this edition of it. January 18th, 2021 was the release date of WandaVision episode 3 when Wanda gave birth to Billy and Tommy. February 16th is Lizzie Olsen's birthday. August 28th is Jack Kirby's birthday. June 2nd is Kevin Feige's birthday. And December 28th was Stan Lee's birthday. Dottie says that this book was stolen 3 years ago, and there are more copies in Natural Sciences. And Natural Sciences is interesting because it implies that the Darkhold might be tied to Earth magic, which makes Rio Vidal an even more interesting figure from Agatha's past. Agnes asks Dottie where she was in the hours between 1 and 3 a.m., which she also asks of the teen later, and that time of night is often known to be around the witching hour, a time of night when supernatural events take place. Now, I have to ask, what is the library outside of Agatha's illusion? Westview does have a library. Remember, Vision fought White Vision there by hitting him with the Ship of Theseus paradox. But I wonder if Sarah Proctor might actually go back to Salem times, and this might actually be like her own personal connection of old books. Agnes goes to the bookshelf, and Dennis whispers creepily through the stacks, "There was a fire." Now, we don't know Dennis's real name. He was just the delivery guy within the Hex who was revealed to be a pizza delivery guy in the town of Westview. But the fire could be referring to Wanda destroying every version of the Darkhold in Multiverse of Madness, as they explained at the end of the movie.
So she destroyed the Darkhold in every universe.
She did the right thing.
Yes, she did.
And I think we need to keep an eye on any mention of things like being burned or drowned or hung or put on trial in the series, because they all seem to be nods to the ways that these witches were historically persecuted. So if the Darkhold is a person, we have to imagine that that person might have been burned. Agnes shows up to the police station with a donut in her mouth, another Mayor of Easttown reference. Mayor was always chowing down on junk food in her car. Bill Jones, real name Harold Proctor, Dottie's husband, returns now as Agnes's boss, the police chief.
You got a spot on your shirt.
Oh.
And your tie.
She said it was a smoothie, but I'm reminded of Dottie's weird line in WandaVision episode 2.
How does a housewife get a bloodstain out of white linen? By doing it herself.
Now, Agnes's office is huge for a small-town detective. Detectives normally sit at like desks and bullpens, but she is, I guess, the star of her own show in this case. On a filing cabinet is an old photograph of a boy with a statue rabbit in front of it. I'm assuming this is probably connected to her son, Nicholas Scratch. Also, I could be wrong, but I think that's the Holy Grail from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade under a desk lamp behind Agnes. I don't know, maybe she's collecting old movie prop replicas. Chief Phil says that the soil in Jane Doe's fingernails matches the dirt only found in Eastern Europe, which would line up with Wanda's end atop Mount Wundagore in Eastern Europe, but it could also refer to where the Darkhold ended. Chief Jones introduces Agnes's new backup, Federal Agent Rio Vidal, played by Aubrey Plaza. She initially appears directly behind Chief Jones, but what's weird is Agnes's eyes are on Chief the entire time, so she would have seen if Rio was walking up behind him, and now she's like totally shocked to see someone standing there. So Rio just kind of like apparated here. It seems like what Agatha was to Wanda, invading a witch's mental illusion to try to get something out of her, Rio seems to be doing the same to to Agatha, invading this hex that Wanda placed on Agatha to score revenge. Now, within the Mayor of Easttown structure, Agent Vidal parallels Evan Peters' character, Colin Zabel, the young state agent assigned to Mayor's case against her wishes. Clearly some irony there, right? As Evan Peters played Ralph Boner, the Westview resident being manipulated by Agatha. The clock in the background of the station reads 3:33, which is also the time on the clock in the interrogation room later. These clocks never changed from 3:33. Why did the clocks never change? Could 3:33 be the time it is in the outside world? Are we looking at the power of 3 times 3, the witch's number, Maiden Mother Crone? I'm gonna try to be careful with the numerology in these analyses because most of the time focusing too much on the numbers ends up being nothing, and the creators are like, wait, we did what now? I also like how Agnes's coffee mug reads, "Get a clue." Rio Vidal says,
It's been a long time.
What are you doing here?
My job.
Now, Agnes's response sounds like it was coming from Agatha in this moment, not from the detective version. Rio does a similar thing.
Is this really how you see yourself?
And then after Rio sarcastically says Agnes has been in Westview her whole life, we get another bit of the true Agatha here.
I don't want you here.
And as Rio walks out, she says in Spanish,
Te veo.
"Te veo" means I see you. So even though Aubrey Plaza says it as like a goodbye, like see ya, it really means I see what you're doing. It's similar to the creepy threat that Agatha inserted into the WandaVision episode 7 opening titles, "I see what you are doing, Wanda." Norm, real name Abelish Tandon, returns from WandaVision to play a jeweler at a pawn shop. He appraises the brooch.
Late 17th century, I guess. It's made from cowrie shell.
What's a cowrie?
Sea snail.
Cowrie shells were used as currency in many parts of the world, and now in bohemian and beach-inspired jewelry, but it's also known to be part of spiritual rituals believed to have healing properties, and even in some African cultures used in divination practices to predict the future. I would say it's pretty unlikely that the residents of 1693 Salem, Massachusetts would have their hands on that much cowrie shell, and I know that Agatha got the brooch from her mother, Evanora Harkness, but I wonder if this originally could have come from some of these witches' worldly travels to places like Greece. More on that later. Norm explains,
These hotties here, it's triple goddess. Maiden, mother, crone.
So the Maiden Mother Crone are a neo-pagan archetype representing the different stages of the female life cycle, also the phases of the moon. He reveals it's actually a locket containing a lock of hair. I think this hair belongs to Agatha's son, Nicholas Scratch. Agnes's arrival home is reflected in a pothole puddle, like her puddle reflection in the crime scene. We hear a dog barking. She says stupid dog. I'm assuming this is the dog that barks at the teen later and actually helps Agnes catch him, but it's just a reminder that Agatha doesn't like dogs. She actually killed Wanda's dog, Sparky, and then laughed about it later. She peeks into an empty boy's bedroom. A kid's drawing with the name Nicky, figurines of rabbits everywhere, and an award for a Nicholas Scratch for first place as best vocals in a children's choir concert. So Nicholas Scratch is, well, a common euphemism for the devil, and during WandaVision times, we assumed Mr. Scratchy the rabbit could have been a reference to him. In the Marvel Comics Fantastic Four number 185, Nicholas Scratch was Agatha's son, part of the hidden community of sorcerers called New Salem in Colorado. He fathered 7 children known as Salem's 7, and we will have a Salem 7 in this show, just has a slightly different origin. Agatha is clearly grieving the death of her son Nicholas, who I think is Joe Locke's teen character. I think it's his dark hair that she keeps in the brooch locket. I don't think he's a ghost, someone who's like just in her mind, obviously. I think his soul reincarnated in the body of a teen named Billy Kaplan. The award for Nicholas's singing could connect to the Ballad of the Witch's Road. Like, we don't see Teen joining the ballad, but he does seem very aware of the song. Agnes's lampshade, you'll notice, has a tree branch design, which reflects the Witch's Road tree aesthetic of the Agatha All Along logo. Agnes tells Agent Vidal that there was a car wreck in Eastview an hour before the time of death, and that there might have been 2 people responsible for the death who transported this body. And if we're sticking with the corpse equals Darkhold theory, then the 2 people responsible for its destruction could be Wanda Maximoff and Stephen Strange. Agnes says,
Hey, I travel. I'm worldly.
Where have you traveled?
Another moment where Agatha breaks out of her illusion briefly to reflect on her life as a witch. It really feels as though Agatha and Rio might have traveled the world together, maybe to the Greek Isle of Santorini to meet the witch goddess Hecate, or Hecate. All different ways to pronounce it, but it's Hecate, actually. Wanda does this with Agatha's ghost in the 2016 James Robinson Scarlet Witch comics, which first introduces the Witch's Road concept. Rio again asks a question that speaks to their past together, and then packages it with something within the detective world.
Do you remember why you hate me?
No.
Are you hiding evidence?
Rio says that Agnes is only lying to herself, and we should note that while Agnes's home is filled with evidence boxes that she took home, even when she's out of Wanda's spell later, there are still evidence boxes in the house. Agnes finds Teen hooded and masked in her bedroom, holding what looks like that brooch. And I love the framing showing Agnes reflected in the mirror, showing that whenever Agatha looks at this kid, she really sees herself. We see that same glass reflection effect in the interrogation room later. Agnes chases the teen in a Mare of Easttown style foot chase through the neighborhood alleys, and then the kid gets run over by Sharon Davis. So Agnes's reaction in this moment is very important because she reacts not as a detective chasing down a burglar, but rather honestly like a mother watching her child run into the street. Even her saying, "Don't you run after me," was kind of like a mom trying to put her toddler in timeout. So Teen sasses Agnes later.
What were you looking for in my house?
The respect of your peers and a fulfilling home life. But you were fresh out of both.
She kicks this poor boy. Between this and the car collision, I don't think Teen has a normal human teenager constitution. He's pretty tough. Agnes says,
"The things that you're roasting me for are the things that make me dangerous."
Again, roasting. Now, yes, technically the teen is roasting her, mocking her, but for things that a normal kid probably wouldn't know or care about when it comes to a normal detective. But roasting implies an audience among peers, right? And I think the word choice reflects another instance of burning and drowning witches, that sort of thing. Teen says he was actually seeking the road, and we hear a synthy version of the Ballad of the Witch's Road.
What road?
You of all people should know.
She notices his black fingertips, and Teen gets defensive, saying it was ink from fingerprinting. So I wonder, A, why would he get so defensive? B, dark fingertips are also a sign of a sorcerer using the Darkhold, especially the notion that the reader would be running one's fingers over fresh or living ink. And C, it also connects Teen to the corpse in the woods as someone with darkened fingers, but also police use ink to get a perp's fingerprints, as well as using that same kind of ink to get the finger and handprints on a corpse that they find. Agnes realizes that the photos of Jane Doe's corpse, photos supplied by Rio, remember, are just photos of Herb's fence-line yellow flowers. The detective reality glitches. The one-way mirror is actually this painting in Agatha's living room. This is called Macbeth and the Three Witches by Francesco Zuccarelli. It's from the 18th century. Shakespeare's Macbeth was perhaps the most important literary work to popularize our Western cultural archetype of witches as we continue to see them in the modern age, as, you know, three sisters huddled over a bubbling cauldron, speaking in rhyme, brewing potions, telling the future, etc. Shakespeare opened his play Macbeth with them because he felt his tale of royal intrigue needed some spooky supernatural delights at the top to hook the groundlings in the pit. And that's pretty much why these shows are popular now. The teen speaks in Latin, and notice how he's now sitting in a different chair. This is actually the armchair in Agatha's living room. The Latin words are not captioned, but listen closely.
Soe hunc feminam de fixam.
What are you saying?
Mea carmine ex soe hunc feminam de fixam.
What is that?
I think he's saying incarne exoe feminum defixum, based on Joe Locke's vowel sounds, and whether each of these words are one-word sentences or all together in one sentence. I guess it roughly translates to incarnate, exit, women, fixed. And it's definitely plural women, which suggests that the spell is designed for multiple women as opposed to just one. We're reminded of Teen in episode 2 stressing witches, plural possessive, road. But I wonder who is the other woman or women besides Agatha in this Latin spell? Is the other woman Wanda or Rio Vidal, the whole of the Salem Seven, the whole of Wanda's coven collectively? I think for this spell to be powerful enough to undo the Scarlet Witch's spell, even after her defeat, it would have to be a spell broad enough and I guess sloppy enough to empower other witches like Rio Vidal and maybe the Salem Seven to be able to locate Agatha. Agnes returns to the coroner and initially sees no corpse on the table, but then bam, suddenly the corpse appears under the sheet. Agnes sees hair the color of scarlet dropping from below the sheet. If this corpse is meant to represent the Darkhold, it could be scarlet hair, which would be contrasting Lizzie Olsen's blonder hair, because that's how the Darkhold prophesied the Scarlet Witch to appear. W. Maximoff appears in cursive red ink, which would be the most recent possessor of the book, as opposed to the ID of the body. When Agatha checks it again, A. Harkness is written in sloppier print in purple ink. Rio Vidal suddenly appears in the morgue. The way she kind of teleports in and out of scenes recalls Aubrey Plaza's role in the FX Marvel series Legion, where she played David Haller's friend and fellow mental patient Lenny, who was later revealed as one of the forms of the devil with the yellow eyes, aka the Shadow King, who haunted David Haller's mind in a similar way. Agatha gets warm and strips off her layers of clothes. There's this abrupt same angle cut showing Agatha now in the purple sweater that she wore in WandaVision episodes 7 and 8, which showed her Modern Family sitcom era. She strips off that to the black sweats with Naughty bedazzled on the butt, which only made one appearance in the episode 6 Malcolm in the Middle inspired credit sequence. For the rest of that episode, she was in a Halloween costume as a witch. Next, she appears in the 80s workout gear, her wardrobe from the episode 5 Growing Pains Full House era. Then she rinses her face and pops back up as the episode 3 Brady Bunch look with the Jan sweater and the skirt. Then she hits the hanging lamp, causing the light to swing, and now her monochrome hand grasps the gurney, which itself is kind of creepy, kind of like the hand of Samara crawling out of the TV in the ring. But I love this idea that each of these outfits were really costumes that Agatha had to quick change into without having time in this scene transition or act break of Wanda's live broadcast to take the previous outfit off. Instead, just kind of had to cram a new outfit on top of the previous one, which by the end of it would lead her to this place in which she's like struggling to move, nearly suffocating. Agatha is now back to her initial episode 1 look from the early 60s Dick Van Dyke Show era. They skipped the episode 2 Bewitched era look, and I love how they use the swinging light in the scene, because they would have had to shoot Kathryn Hahn on a separate plane to make her black and white, and they would have had to have matched the swinging light on her body and matched it with the background. Doing this blends the visual effect in with the practical background to create this unsettling feel. Like the way we see it, something monochrome should not be in a Technicolor environment with us. It's also a literal reference to the industry term of bumping the lamp. This comes from Robert Zemeckis' groundbreaking film Who Framed Roger Rabbit, in which they initially were struggling to try to sync the animated Roger Rabbit's movement with the practical environment of Eddie's office. So they invented this trick of having Roger bump the lamp, which they accomplished by physically moving the practical lamp so that they could add in the animated cause of that bump later on. And it gave the animated effect a physical weight to the scene. She-Hulk made a similar reference to bumping the lamp when She-Hulk carried her muscular date to bed and they bumped the lamp, which just kind of helped sell this illusion to keep us from going into that uncanny valley. The swinging lamp also creates an unsettling effect on Aubrey Plaza's face. She goes from shadow to exposure as her eyes are opened super wide that only Aubrey Plaza can do. The white cordia going all the way around her pupils, kind of like Pennywise in It. And notice how the word warning is in the background behind her. The bass notes of the Lopez's Agatha All Along, bum 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 bum. It plays as Agatha strips off this outfit and orgasmically transitions into the light. And she finds herself in her home naked. One thinks of Eve in the Garden of Eden, but I think a more apt figure would be Lilith, a feminine figure from Mesopotamian and Jewish mythology theorized to be the first wife of Adam, who was banished from the Garden of Eden for not obeying Adam. Since then, Lilith has been romanticized as a figure associated with witchcraft and with feminism. Later, Agatha puts on a bathrobe with purple flowers and a purple snake, which definitely feels inspired by the Garden of Eden, with the serpent, of course, representing the devil. Agatha gets answers from Tom Collins.
You've mostly been a good neighbor, a bit too casual with your boundaries.
Call me nosy, I'll cut out your tongue.
Nosy neighbor is how Agnes was initially described, but I like that Agatha takes it personally, given the stereotype for witches of having long, pointy noses. Kathryn Hahn bears it all. Oh my God. This isn't the first time we've seen butt in the MCU. There was Thor and Love and Thunder, Hulk and Ragnarok, but I think this is the first time on a Disney Plus show, and I think the first time in the MCU it's a woman doing it. And it's nice to see that it's not done for the male gaze like nudity is in Game of Thrones and in Sopranos. Really, it's just kind of a comedic bit. Agatha tries to conjure magic, pinching her fingers and pulling away from her palm, and it's the same gesture that she did to conjure the insect while questioning Wanda in episode 8. Agatha goes down to her basement, likely hoping to find the witch dungeon that was down there in episode 7 and 8 where the Darkhold was being stored, but now without her powers and without those runes creating that barrier, it's back to being just a normal basement. She finds a rabbit, Senor Scratchy, and now, based off of Nicholas Scratch, I assume she named this rabbit after her son. A reminder that Matt Shackman mentioned a removed scene concept for the WandaVision finale that would have shown the rabbit, Senor Scratchy, transforming into what he called its true form, a giant hell demon, and chasing the kids around the basement. As Agatha follows the sound of teen thumping, on the refrigerator is a very creepy kid's drawing of a witch. Was this something drawn by Billy and Tommy when she had them over there? On the kitchen countertop, on the right side of frame is, yeah, another rabbit figurine, but also a paper on the side of the microwave with a geometric drawing incorporating circles and pentagrams that looks like something you would draw to try to open the portal to the Witch's Road by yourself. Agatha mentions having been down there before. Maybe this is how she got down there. Rio Vidal smashes into the home and draws a dagger and leaps at Agatha, bouncing from the wall, a move that I believe we saw happen in the battle in the craft. Rio says,
You acquired the Darkhold. You hid behind all that dark magic, but then you lost it.
It sounds like Rio and Agatha had a relationship in the past, but Agatha might have gained the Darkhold and left her behind. They have this interesting exchange.
You can't kill me. You can't kill me. It's not allowed.
It sounds like there is a code among witches, maybe just a spell between these two witches where they're unable to kill each other. I'm reminded of the cosmic relationship between Jacob and the Man in Black on Lost, where they were bound in a certain way where they were unable to kill each other, and it required the Man in Black to find a loophole in the form of the body of John Locke to kill Jacob. I wonder if a similar loophole is being exploited with the character of Teen, played by Joe Locke. Coincidence? Maybe. As Rio prepares to torture Agatha, Agatha negotiates that Rio should fight her when she's at her best.
You prefer me
horizontal? In a grave?
Yeah, these two definitely boned. Rio Vidal comes off like a spurned lover, angry at Agatha for leaving her behind for the Darkhold. It's kind of like a sacrilegious version of breaking off a romance to pursue a vocation with the Bible and with God as a nun. Agatha says,
Just let me get my purple back.
My purple? I love that Agatha embraces the MCU's color-coded VFX sorcery as just being essentially purple stuff. Rio promises to wait, but will tell the Salem 7 where she is. So the Salem 7, inspired by Salem's 7 from the Fantastic Four comics, are in this show the descended daughters of the Salemites whom Agatha drained during her trial. Agatha says,
You don't have a heart.
Yes, I do. It's black. And it beats for you.
And Rio licks Agatha's palm cut to heal it, which suggests to me that perhaps green magic witches could have healing powers. And she tells Agatha again,
Te veo.
as in, I see you. And I see all of you out there wishing you might have been able to celebrate this Agatha season of the witch with some amazing merch, and you're in luck because nerdriot.shop has some amazing Agatha inspired designs that I'm going to be wearing throughout this Halloween season. Grab one of these at nerdriot.shop. And as we finish episode 1, behind Teen in the Closet, there is a stack of DVDs. We were reminded of the DVD collection that Wanda Maximoff had. Could Agatha have taken those DVDs and watched a lot of them to study up on the pop culture references that she would end up in the phases of Wanda's hex? Now, the closing credits are set to Donovan's Season of the Witch. I'm going to break down all the imagery here. There is a lot here, so if you want to skip to the episode 2 breakdown, skip to the next chapter. Okay, first off, on the right side of the page is an article about the trial of several witches in New England. The left side of the page text reads in cursive, "Down the Witch's Road, following me, my friend, to glory in the end," which is the final words of the Ballad of the Witch's Road. Then printed, we see, "Ye shall remove your shoes before touching the hallowed ground. In order to connect to the power of the earth, you must touch your feet to the soil and channel her divine magic through you. There must be nothing in between, no rubber, no wood, not a soul, just your soul," which is obviously instructions on why they must take their shoes off when they enter the Witch's Road realm. Then we see how someone is circling the witch shoe in red and crossing it out, and the word trial in red, and then crosses out the word shoe and circles remove. And then under that, an article headline, "Can you talk to the dead?" with the first few words of the article, "Fiction thinkers and theologians have something spiritism." Next, a Google search for Witch's Road, Ballad of the Witch's Road by Lorna Wu. That's Alice Wu-Gulliver's rock star mom, whom we hear about in episode 2. There's a woman in a witch costume posing behind the sign, "Entering Salem, established 1626. We see Agatha as the witch from the Bewitched opening credits. Episode 2 of WandaVision did this with Wanda. We see this painting, but altered, titled "Trial of George Jacobs Sr. for Witchcraft" by Tompkins Harrison Madison, that depicts people fainting and causing disorder during the first witch trial. It seems like the male witch in the original painting has been replaced by a female witch in this credits painting. An article titled "Modern Witch of the 21st Century in the Enchanting Landscape of Modern Witchcraft, PR something, weaving a spellbinding tapestry that travels far beyond." We see a print of a man and a woman in the stocks. This is Pillory, 17th century, The Witch #2. We see cats in a circle. This is Black Cat Dance Grand Gallop Day Concert, which is actually the cover art of some old Halloween sheet music. We see the evil witch from Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and of course that animated film showed up playing in Wanda's 838 universe house in Multiverse of Madness. We see a raven against some text. It looks like the lyrics of the Ballad of the Witch's Road. Next, some art of a woman with her arms raised out. This is The Witch #1 by Joseph E. Baker. The partial description of the full art is, "A bolt of lightning releases the handcuffs on a woman accused of being a witch and strikes down her inquisitor in this late 19th century lithograph of a colonial era trial." Next, we see Lorna Wu singing. This is Alice's mother. This is her album cover. Next, a press photo of Irene Ray in Rochester, Indiana, 1938, who had been accused of being a witch. She was known as the Witch of Rochester. She was basically driven out of town based on accusations. From the article, on May 11th, 1938, Irene Ray and her husband Charles were driven from the town of Rochester, Indiana, due to allegations that Irene was a practitioner of witchcraft and had hexed several townfolk. It was alleged that her hexes had caused personal property damage, serious illness, and even death. Irene and Charles had moved to the town 6 years prior to this unfortunate episode, along with their daughter, Ilo, and their cat. A strange fact that many of the newspaper stories were sure to include. And then on the left, a section of a dictionary showing the definitions of witty, witness, whittling, which are words close to witch or witchcraft. Then some artwork. Then we see a common clip art drawing of a skull. And then some old art from the wonderful Wizard of Oz. Text on the side reads, "Cotton Mather and Witchcraft." This guy was a Puritan minister who was heavily involved in the witch trials. And then little Lisa Simpson, which would be from Treehouse of Horror #19. When Milhouse tells Lisa he likes her witch costume, and she responds, "I'm not a witch, I'm a Wiccan. Why is it when a woman is confident and powerful, they call her a witch?" Then we see a silhouetted woman in a witch costume walking away from us. Then we see a white white rabbit and a black cat playing banjos. They're having fun. This is some more vintage art. It's been recreated so many times by many places online, but I think the original was from 1896 in the Black Cat magazine, published in Massachusetts. To the right is an image from Diamus a Pythiosinus Melurbius, or On Witches and Female Soothsayers, which is a witchcraft treatise by German scholar Ulrich Molitor, published in 1489. The image on the right depicts two women preparing a potion. Then on the right, an image known as the Astrological Man from a manuscript by Heymandus de Viteri Busco in 1488, showing the perceived influences of the zodiac signs were thought to have over the body. Then we see a shot from the movie The Craft, where Fairuza Balk is going nuts and screaming and levitating herself toward Robin Tunney and just letting her toe tips drag on the ground. We see a woman in a witch costume. We see various article headlines on witches, including the role of witches in modern society, witch saves town with love spell, ancient secret society exposed, accused witches face unjust trial as witchcraft claims divide Salem, then the lyrics to Down the Witch's Road, then some spooky white on black art of a woman using a Ouija board, and then a ceramic witch with a stereotypical green face, the lunar phases, the headline Near Death in Westview, then some hippie crystals, probably referring to the events of WandaVision, then a pentagram on the floor with candles, which dissolves into an overhead map of Westview with a pentagram on top of it, also probably indicating the area of Wanda's hex. Then we see a kid in a Halloween witch mask, the text next to it, Witchcraft, Twin Superstitions, makes it look like the cover of a book, but we couldn't find it. And then some drawings of flowers, some cursive words are circled, including Common Mother of Time and Lemon Time, both types of ground cover plants. Toward the bottom, there is an Anagulus. The flower in the middle is a Calla Lily, which does invoke the name Lilia Calderu. Then the tarot card of the Magician, and around the edges of cycles of the moon. So the Magician is a representation of pure willpower. We see a spooky spider walking over us, and then a bunch of witches paddleboarding. Love this. And then a full moon, and then we end with the road through the wood. And I'm assuming it's Witch's Road with the title Agatha All Along over it. Okay, on to episode 2, Circle Sewn with Fate, Unlock Thy Hidden Gate. Another lyric from the Ballad of the Witch's Road. We see Agatha frantically pacing the house.
Whose shoes are these?
Another Wizard of Oz parallel there. Remember the Wicked Witch of the West wanted the ruby slippers or the silver slippers in Elfrake Baum's text. I also remember reading in Roald Dahl's The Witches detail that witches would have to like cram their feet in shoes and like cut off their toes to fit them in. There's also more rabbit art on the wall where Teen peels the tape off his mouth. And I find it interesting that Teen unseals his mouth here just to have this mysterious spell cover his mouth again when he tries to reveal his name. Teen says,
"The road will give you the thing you want the most, if you make it to the end."
Another nod to the Wizard of Oz, where Dorothy, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion go down the yellow brick road, seeking a way home, a brain, a heart, and courage. The Witch's Road was introduced in James Robinson's 2016 Scarlet Witch comics. The Witch's Road is a dimension accessed only by witches and warlocks. A ghost form of Agatha Harkness accompanies Wanda Maximoff down this road as they're investigating a supernatural issue in Ireland, finding the Emerald Warlock. Along the way, they run into a version of Wanda's mother. Agatha says that if Teen could undo a Scarlet Witch spell, why does he even need the road?
I mean, I've studied, don't get me wrong, but that can only take you so far. I want to blast, to shield, to levitate.
This reminds me of the line in Oppenheimer, theory can only get you so far. And it kind of sounds like Teen is intentionally listing these juvenile applications of sorcery to sound immature and naive to Agatha as a kind of tactic. Like, I don't think a 16-year-old who knew enough to break her out of that trance would be like, I just want to fly and scare off my bullies and make purple. Agatha finds the brooch locket with the lock of dark hair inside. And it's in this moment where she turns to ask,
Who are you?
My name is...
And she approaches and asks again.
Say again.
Okay, so I broke down Joe Locke's mouth and chin movements to deduce that he is clearly saying either 3 or 4 syllables. But anyone who listens to this audio thinking they're able to reassemble it in their heads back into something discernible is kidding themselves. They clearly muted the audio and just inserted a completely different sound. The symbol over the mouth was actually confirmed by Scarlet Witch updates on Twitter to be found on the Agatha Cruise sweatshirt and on the corner of the series of tarot cards that were released as promo artwork. It looks like it's a combination of a W and an M, but we'll probably learn exactly what it means as the series goes on. Closed captions on a trailer that was released since then listed Joe Locke's character as Billy. But when Joe Locke was asked at press junkets if he did the research into the version of Wanda's son, Billy Maximoff, played by Julian Hilliard in WandaVision and Multiverse Madness, Joe Locke seemed to be legitimately confused and insisted that he's playing a completely different character. Billy Maximoff, as we met him in WandaVision and Multiverse Madness, was a creation of Wanda inside of her hex initially, who happened to have a real version of him who existed in the 838 universe of the multiverse. They did dress him up as Wiccan for Halloween in episode episode 6 of WandaVision. Joe Locke could be playing Billy Kaplan, aka Wiccan from the comics, the young Avenger revealed to be Wanda's son reincarnated, a piece of Mephisto's soul. That's the very confusing comics backstory to the character. I could also see them naming this character Billy Kaplan on the show, but he actually has just a different backstory that's more connected to Agatha Harkness, as perhaps a reincarnated soul of her son from her Salem days. Considering it was seeing the lock of dark hair that inspired the question, I think we have to consider the possibility that Teen is actually a reincarnated form of Agatha's son, and it might have been Nicholas that he said here. He could be Agatha's son who died and reincarnated in the form of this modern day goth teenager, Billy Kaplan. But the question would be, does Billy know? Does he know about his real identity? Or is he just a normal kid who was just interested in witchcraft, who ended up having the soul of Agatha's son possessing his body? And as far as he knows, he's just still a goth kid interested in witchcraft, and he's completely unaware of this dark passenger. Agatha tells Teen that she'll need a full coven to access the Witch's Road.
Of course, that makes sense. It is the Witch's plural possessive road.
As a grammar nerd, I love this. Witches, apostrophe after the S, then road. It's like a generation of students thinks it looks weird to have a piece of punctuation hanging off the end of an S like that, but I'm telling you, that's how you show multiple things possessing a single thing. The road really belongs to all the witches. And I like how Agatha, as someone who probably didn't spend a lot of time looking at this printed anywhere, just kind of heard it and forgot that it had punctuation at the end and thought it just belonged to her. Agatha sees graffiti all over Wanda and Vision's plot of land, including "Evil Witch, stay away," and also the sigil of the Scarlet Witch's tiara, but then crossed out, which means that someone in Westview was like, I gotta figure out what Scarlet Witch's iconography is. I'll make it this. That looks cool. And then, God, I'm so mad at her. The Westview welcome sign now reads the population as 2,251, which is down from what it was in WandaVision, 3,892. So that means over 1,600 people left the town after the Westview incident, which would be devastating to the city's economy and its tax base and all the businesses there. Black Hand's On My Mind plays as Teen's ringtone when his boyfriend calls, and he's listed on his phone as Boyf. This actor is Miles Gutierrez Riley, and it's believed that this character's name is Eddie. Agatha explains the Covenstead rule. Within any 3-mile radius, there will always be a collection of witchy enough people to form a coven. And I like how she says witchy enough, which I suppose is how Sharon Davis gets in. In several of these driving scenes, there is a car in the background tailing them, despite this being a very small town, and no car is following them when we cut to a wide exterior shot. They stop at Madame Calderu's psychic readings. The window reads, $10.99 for your future, $5.99 for the past. Broadway legend Patti LuPone plays Lilia Calderu, who is a 450-year-old Sicilian witch. She was originally a villain in Doctor Strange comics with a history of Baron Mordo in the Book of Cagliostro. Here, she specializes in divination, and Agatha performs this kind of test on her, which is really like a reversal of the scene in The Wizard of Oz with Professor Marvel, where he's clearly bullshitting Dorothy. In this case, Agatha gives her a bullshit story about a dead husband with gold bars in the backyard, and Lilia just plays along with that and says that the gold is in a bowling bag. But then Lilia proves that she actually knows what she's doing.
There's something else. You've been under the influence of another. They took your agency.
And there's a cool lighting effect here where passing cars outside reflect a glare through the windows as if to show Lilia's divination light illuminating the truth that Agatha is hiding. The necklace that Lilia wears shows a tarot card of the Queen of Cups, a hand above and below a cup. Her sash actually shows the diamond patterns containing other tarot cards. Agatha shows Lilia the eviction notice from 3-star rentals with this symbol, and this actually comes from the tarot card of the Three of Pentacles, which according to an amazing breakdown of all these shows tarot card imagery by Jessica Clemens, represents learning, dedication, and completion, and working to overcome your challenges. So that really is what inspires Lilia to go into this trance state to write down a list of names for Agatha's coven. Outside, Agatha notices a crow. This is the animal form of one of the Salem 7, the one played by Bethany Curry. Next stop, the shop of Jennifer Kale, played by Sashir Zameda, who you may remember from SNL and a hilarious UCB improviser. In the comics, Jennifer Kale is a sorceress who's part of the cult of Zered Na. She's also been a member of the Legion of Night and the Midnight Suns even. This is a different take on the character, a witch who specializes in potions. Her necklace seems to depict the Tower, which is one of the tarot cards associated with this coven as well. Agatha asks for jade eggs, referencing yoni eggs that some women buy from like places like Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop. And, you know, they are inserted for various claimed benefits. The fact that she offers to go splitsies on one of these with these two strangers is hilariously disgusting.
Sisterhood of the Traveling Kegels? No? No?
We learn that Jen is bound from a binding spell that left her without magic for the past century. Jen asks,
Who's this? Another child sacrifice?
Aha! So Agatha's reaction shot is a pretty solid clue of what's going on here. It seems like Agatha might have sacrificed her son, Nicholas Scratch. It seems like she's keeping Nikki's hair in that locket brooch. Teen could be the soul of that son reincarnated in this modern youth body of Billy Kaplan. Teen pulls up a news headline that reads, Kale Care founder drowning in class action lawsuits. Drowning. Another instance of a common treatment of witches, which Agatha kind of reminds us of here.
Historically, we as a group don't do well in courtrooms.
Next, they seek out a blood witch, which is the child of a witch, Alice Wu-Gulliver. Teen realizes that her mother was Lorna Wu of the Coral Shore Band, which is a reference to the August Wu of the Coral Shore, a magical guardian of Hong Kong whom Doctor Strange meets when following Dormammu to China in the comic run Doctor Strange Last Days of Magic from 2016. August's daughter Alice becomes a police detective who uses magically powered weapons. Here, she's like a mall security guard and former cop who now kind of has to patrol a hot topic. Teen mentions his mom.
My mom went to see her last tour right before she died. R.I.P.
So grammatically, it's not clear if he's talking about his mom dying or Alice's mom, Lorna, dying. I assume he's talking about Lorna, but I will admit, grammatically, we are kind of in he was in the Amazon with my mother researching spiders right before she died situation here. But this is Teen referencing a mother, and there is a Rebecca Kaplan and a Jeff Kaplan cast for this show, so he must be just a normal teen from Eastview who has some kind of possession going on with him. Agatha sees a rat, which is probably not the rat from Avengers Endgame who saved us all. This is another form of one of the Salem Seven, the witch played by Britta Grant. Like the crow, this rat seems to turn to stare directly at Agatha. Agatha says Lorna Wu was lost to the witch's road, and Agatha invites her to the coven as a protection witch and promises her a chance to find out what really happened with her mother. And you'll notice that Alice's necklace looks like it could be the tarot figure of either the high priestess or just of death. Agatha asks where the teen is from.
Where are you from?
Me? Originally, I was born in...
The sound fades out as he continues. Lip readers activate! But we do hear him initially saying he was born and raised in Eastview. So my hunch is that Joe Locke is monologuing about some pretty basic biostats for a teenager. He was probably born Billy Kaplan. He just also has some cosmic link to Nicholas Scratch. And Agatha sees a coyote. This is another one of the members of the Salem Seven, played by actress Chow Naumova. Teen hangs a Welcome Coven banner that Agatha tears down, but the W is left standing, which some are speculating could be a sign that he is William Kaplan or Wiccan or somehow connected to Wanda. I think every comedic take from Catherine Hahn needs to be studied.
Please, come in. Right, Agatha?
I don't care, whatever.
Lilia and Alice show up, but they refuse to proceed without a green witch. Lilia says that she drew a black heart on the list, obviously referencing to the black heart of Rio Vidal, but instead Agatha goes after Sharon Davis, whom she still just calls Mrs. Hart.
Yoo-hoo!
Agnes?
This is kind of like how Mrs. Hart in WandaVision episode 1 would call over to the kitchen.
Who in there?
Who back to you?
She says,
I haven't been to a party since Mr. Davis passed away.
Are you in or are you out, Hart?
Oh.
Fred Malamed played Mr. Hart, who probably would be Mr. Davis, and in episode 1 he did nearly choke to death. Jen asks,
So who's going high?
Oh, no thank you. I don't take drugs.
I love this joke because with Deborah Joe Rupp and the single character framing with all these people standing in a circle in the basement, yeah, this is totally a That 70s Show joke. On the ground level, Teen hears an owl. The owl is another form of one of the Salem Seven, the character played by Alice Vela Bailey. Agatha begins the ballad.
Seekest thou the road to all that's foul and fair?
Fair is foul and foul is fair comes from the witches in Shakespeare's Macbeth. It was meant to express the falseness of appearances that we're going to see in that play, and I think also what we see on this show. The Salem Seven appear, and they are led by Okpu Wasili, aka Vertigo. In the new Salem, Colorado storyline with Nicholas Scratch of the Fantastic Four comics, Vertigo is one of the daughters of Nicholas, and she leads this group of elite warriors. The character's form here seems to be that of the cicada. In fact, she might have even been that cicada that Wanda saw in Agatha's home in WandaVision episode 7. On the third verse of the ballad, I love how Patti LuPone just takes the top notes, as of this group of wonderful singers, she definitely has the most powerful belt.
The road is wild and wicked, winding through the wood.
Yeah, they had to get a shout out to Wicked in there. Nice. Teen tries to board up the house. We hear them whisper, Agatha Harkness. And then when they jump scare to grab Teen, one of them screams, Agatha. Agatha tries to bait the others into blasting her.
Oh, I don't have time for this! Just blast me, you bitches!
But But whether through their song or just this tension, a pentagon-shaped door opens on the floor. Pentagrams and pentagons, a very important shape to witchcraft. They run down to escape the Salem 7 just as Vertigo crawls down the stairs, looking like Regan in The Exorcist. They find themselves in The Witch's Road, which production built a practical set of, which looks very Wizard of Ozzy, and I love it. The coven reverently takes off their shoes and proceeds, leaving their empty shoes behind, like the Wicked Witch of the East. This episode opened with Agatha trying to put on her shoes. It ends with her taking them off. And that's where we leave you as we look ahead to episode 3. But again, join this conversation over on the break room. I want to hear all your questions and theories. I also want to extend my thanks to Brandon Barrick and Gina Ippolito for all their research help with this breakdown, specifically all those little things that were in the closing credits sequence. They were able to find so many cool secrets about the history of witchcraft, so thank you to those two for their help. Comment down below with your thoughts on all this. Follow me at EAVOS. Subscribe to all 3 channels on the New Rockstars Network for breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.